Exclamation point.
The killer has many names.
What the hell does that mean?
Yo, what is going on guys, Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on Stargirl Season 3, and this will be my review and breakdown for Stargirl Season 3 Episode 2, titled Chapter 2, The Suspects. And yeah, we have some new clues coming in regards to the suspects. We are delving more deeper into this murder mystery, and I'm really loving it. Like, each of these clues point to a different individual potentially being the killer, and obviously there's more suspects to come. But I'm really enjoying what they're doing with this murder mystery. They're doing this really great job in just keeping us intrigued, building up all of this mystery. And as I said, there's a lot of times where we just go, huh? Because each evidence that comes by points to a different suspect. Like, we obviously have the pen with the murderer having different names, which I will give you guys my theory on in this video. And then obviously we have Cindy Berman with the laptop and what she's doing with it. And then we have the ending with Crusher and Paula, I believe her name is. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just gonna call her Tigress. But we have a lot of evidence and just new clues coming in that points to a different individual, and it just keeps making you rotate, going like, okay, this guy's going to be the killer. Oh no, it's going to be her. Oh, maybe it's Cindy. Maybe it's frigging Starman. Who knows? We do have a lot of evidence pointing towards Starman at this point. And as I said, I will allude to that later on in this video. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this episode. It does really keep us intrigued all the time. And as I said, more mystery keeps building up. We have some really cool stuff happening with the Shade at the moment, and that, like, you know, green sparkles happening to him. I'm wondering what that's all about. I think it's something Green Lantern related, but I don't know. We obviously have the death of the gambler, and obviously Courtney getting hold of the letter and her reading that, and then her making a promise that she's going to find Becky after all of this is solved. We do obviously have this really cool training sequence taking place with Starman and Stargirl. Really cool. We get to see Stargirl leveling up. It was really cool to watch. It was a really sick scene. We do also have some scenes with the Thunderbolt pen, and that does give us a really big clue in regards to who our killer will be. And as I said, I keep saying this, but we will get into that. But yeah, we just have lots of mystery building up. We have lots of suspects at the moment, and we obviously have new storylines being introduced as well. Like, we have the storyline taking place with Cameron, and also we're building up with the Salman Grundy storyline, and also Rick building his hourglass. So much stuff happening at the moment, and it's just really interesting. But yeah, before I go over the episode in detail with the review and breakdown itself, I will give a quick spoiler warning. So spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the episode, because this is a review and breakdown after all. So I'll be going over some major spoilers that you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So for those who haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode and come back later for this breakdown. But for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Stargirl videos coming your way. Okay, so we kick off the episode 12 hours before the murder happens, and we see the gambler entering his trailer. He's setting up his home, and we have this really fun music playing. It was a really funny opening for me, and the music really helped with that, and like the gambler's charisma helped with that as well. And we get to see like a bunch of his passwords all being 777, I believe. I found that really funny. But it was revealed that Crusher went to confront the gambler. We do see the Crusher waiting outside the gambler's trailer, and we do obviously see him grabbing hold of the bat, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do this. And he just drives off, and then the gambler obviously runs outside and checks what's up. So that is another detail that we do need to put into account. And obviously Crusher and Tigress could potentially be the murderers as well. I don't think they are, but obviously they are a suspect. But right after the gambler walks in, we then have another suspect coming in, and that is the Shade, who also pays a visit to the gambler. But we do get an explanation in regards to what the Shade was doing there, and I do not think that he is the killer either. But we head back at the garage. The original JSA and Starman are discussing the murder. They all obviously think it's Cindy due to the overwhelming evidence pointing towards her. But Courtney believes that she didn't do it, and I believe Beth doesn't really believe it either. But they do come up with a plan. They're like, okay, we're gonna get hold of Gambler's laptop, and whoever has Gambler's laptop must be the murderer. And that obviously links with the ending, with Cindy Berman somehow grabbing hold of that laptop. Obviously, we'll get more in detail later on as well. But yeah, so far everyone thinks it's Cindy Berman, including Starman, including obviously Yolanda and Rick as well. But obviously, we have others saying, okay, it might not be Cindy. But Courtney then grabs hold of the gambler's note to his daughter and she decides to read it. And it seems that the gambler was actually sincere in regards to him trying to change and like leaving that gambler life behind. He tried to, find his daughter, and he does write down all his like regrets and stuff, which obviously Courtney does talk to Pat about later on as well. And she does make a promise that she's going to find Becky and give her that letter as well. But we do also see Cindy in the ISA headquarters, and she's just doing some like science experiment, and she does drink some weird purple potion. I have no idea what that's about. It could be suspicious. I'm not entirely sure. This is a murder mystery after all, so any like weird looking clue could lead to something. But we do see Cindy drinking something very, very suspicious, so there could be something going on with that. But again, I'm not entirely sure. That could just be me overthinking. But we do obviously see Rick trying to bring Solomon Grundy back once again after burying him in different locations that the shade suggests, and once again, still unsuccessful. Obviously, they did suggest earlier on in the episode that Solomon Grundy could potentially be linked with this murder due to the gambler's trailer obviously being destroyed. But Rick does mention that Solomon Grundy is dead, so that is literally impossible. Now, this was something I was so glad to see because they didn't really address it earlier on in the episode. But we have Pat and Sylvester essentially coming up with this plan to question every single ISA member while Courtney is at school. And this is why I was happy that they addressed this, because you do see Sylvester acting aggressive towards the ISA members, and there's obviously for obvious reasons. They were responsible for killing the JSA, and this was something which was not addressed at all last episode. But we were wondering at that time, why is Sylvester there being okay with an ISA member being their neighbor, and also with the shade being around and stuff like that? Because Sylvester is someone who's just come back to life. He doesn't know most of the events taking place. So I was expecting him to, be all aggressive towards these ISA members. And we do really see that in this episode. So I was glad that they addressed that. We do obviously see Mike and Jakeem in the episode as well. And they're riding their bikes, throwing out newspapers, showing the gambler's murder. And they do talk about it by like a cover-up being a weather issue or like a tornado or something along those lines. I can't really remember. But Mike and Jakeem don't really have that big of a role. They do have a huge role in terms of like a clue they find, but they don't really do much in the episode. And I do hope they do get more screen time, because I'd love to see more of Jakeem and the Thunderbolt pen. But this is while they're at school, and they obviously go to the boys' bathroom, and Mike writes this very, very specific note asking the Thunderbolt pen to find the murderer. And obviously that does happen. Jakeem does read out the letter, and the Thunderbolt pen does say the killer has many names. And I think that is very interesting, because we were suspicious of Starman. He is still acting very, very off, and I do personally think that Starman is the murderer as well. But quite frankly, he does also have multiple names. The killer has multiple names. So we obviously have Sylvester, we have Starman, and we have the Star-Spangled Kid. 3 names, and I think that's the most code names anybody has out of everyone else. I mean, sure, you could go ahead and say, well, you can contradict this by saying Pat, Stripe, and Stripesy as well, but obviously Pat has nothing to do with this. I still think it's Starman. And as I said, he's been acting very, very off. But we then have Barbara walking into her office only to find Paula waiting there. And she pretty much says that they were not responsible for killing the gambler, and Barbara does believe them. And then I did kind of zone out at this point, but they do talk about like bakery or something along those lines as well. I wasn't that interested in that. I'm not too intrigued with whatever's going on over there. But we then have Rick and Yolanda, who still obviously don't trust Cindy Berman. They do say this in the JSA meeting at school, and obviously Cindy Berman walks in, and then she's like, oh, what's going on over here? You had a meeting without me. That's obviously for obvious reasons. That Yolanda's like, yeah, because you're a suspect. And we do have more of that JSA conflict happening. But yeah, Courtney obviously doesn't believe it's Cindy. And one thing that was very, very suspicious at that time was when Courtney mentions, I think it was Courtney, but someone mentions the laptop, and Cindy does make this weird facial expression, which did suggest that she had it. But then obviously during the ending of the episode, it is clear that she does have the laptop and she is doing something with it. But we then had at the diner, and this scene was actually tense. And I really enjoyed it. But we had this like really, really climactic build-up with a piece of tea, and I really loved this scene. But we had the waitress obviously shaking because Shade wants his tea perfect, but she's shaking, and it's like really, really building up to be this like really tense scene. And then as she walks towards the Shade obviously tastes the cup of tea, and it's finally perfect after I think it was 40 tries. It's finally perfect. Shade got his perfect cup of tea, but that enjoyment of the tea is spoiled when Pat and Sylvester join the Shade to interrogate him essentially. Sylvester takes the lead and gets a bit too aggressive with the Shade. This is something normal considering that these two were enemies, and I was expecting something like this to happen even in last episode, but unfortunately we didn't get that. It was just Starman playing like a nice guy or something like that, so that was too off, but this finally makes sense. And the Shade says he didn't murder the gambler, but Sylvester obviously doesn't believe him. He grabs him and they talk about different possible scenarios that could have taken place, but the Shade does actually reveal why he was with the gambler, and he does actually confess that he did go to the trailer, but it was actually to apologize and make amends, because obviously they went like kind of beefy when they had their interaction last episode. But yeah, Shade reveals that he went there to apologize, but Sylvester believes something else. Sylvester believes that he went there to kill him, but Shade does say that he would have killed him in another way if he was the killer. That is true. He would have probably sent him to like the Shadowlands or something like that. But yeah, we do then have Courtney in an exam, and she's obviously like stressing about it, but she sees Starman outside the door, and Starman comes in calling Courtney to start off their training. And obviously Courtney leaves the exam room and goes to train with Starman. It was a really, really fun scene. I really loved seeing it. Essentially, Starman trains Stargirl. Stargirl first off shows what she already knows with the staff, and then Sylvester shows her how to like essentially channel the staff energy into himself or herself in the case of Stargirl. And like he shows some really cool tricks on what to do, and they use like all this positive energy to do it and essentially create this like shooting star, which Sylvester calls it. And it was really, really cool. You do see Stargirl leveling up immensely, and it was just a really sick scene that I really, really enjoyed. Once again, we have Pat being overly aggressive, and this is exemplified when Sylvester and Courtney go to visit the Shade. First, he says that he wants to apologize, but obviously that doesn't go too right. And obviously, Sylvester blames the Shade for being responsible for a lot of the JSA members. They do mention Jay Garrick and some other guy, which I forgot. But then the Shade does mention that he was able to save Dr. McNitre, and Sylvester begins to go crazy. He takes the staff and just attacks the Shade until Courtney obviously pulls the staff away and she's able to like diffuse what's happening. So once again, I do think Sylvester is the murderer once again because of the new clue that we just found, and also he's being overly aggressive, and I think this overly aggressive aggression, shall we say, could also be a motivation for him to be a killer as well. Once again, we don't even know how he was able to dig himself out of that coffin. That's another thing, because he would be buried like 6 feet under. He has to break out of the coffin and also dig through all that soil. I don't know how that would be possible. So there's a lot of questions in regards to what's going on with Sylvester, and he's also been acting very, very strange. Like last episode, Pat does specifically mention that you won't see Sylvester ever apologize or something like that. So this is something new that's coming from him. And then also you do see from that past episode with Eclipso and this episode, we do kind of see two different versions of Starman. And yes, you do still see very, very similar traits. And however, the thing is, this version of Sylvester we're having right now, yes, he's still aggressive. Yes, he still does have similar traits to the Starman we saw in season 2. But he's a very nice guy. But then the Starman we saw in season 2, he was a big D-head, shall we say. So it's very different versions of themselves, so that is something that we do need to take into consideration as well. They're being very, very different, so that could be something else that's pointing towards Starman as well, but I guess we will have to wait and see. But yeah, this is when Shade decides that he's going to leave Blue Valley, and he's pretty much had enough over here, so he's not going to help Courtney or any of the other members of the JSA find out who the killer is. But we have Sylvester explaining this aggression, and also I do think that this was interesting as well. And obviously Sylvester's choice to kill Bruce Gordon in last season in cold blood is the reason the JSA died in the first place. Like, they began to fall off after the JSA were known for something murderous just to defeat Eclipso. And then also he does blame himself and the Shade as well, which obviously it's a good reason. And also you do seem to have survivor's guilt as well. Like, you do see him say, why am I the one alive but they're not? He does say something along those lines as well. So we do have that aspect of things happening with Starman, which could justify why he's been too aggressive, but also it could just be an excuse or like a cover up as well. Who knows? Now we do find out that Rick isn't getting his hourglass at a full hour. Like, we did see that last episode where it only took 30 minutes and then it ran out of time, and he does say that it fluctuates a lot, so he wasn't able to fully fix his hourglass. But then the Shade appears to speak with Rick about Salmon Grundy, and he does apologize that he wasn't there to revive him, but the Shade just leaves, and we do see like that green flickering light. Once again, I do think that this is related to Green Lantern in some way. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. It could just be him feeling really, really weak and just sick. But that is something very, very interesting as well. Now, one thing I am confused about. If Beth has access to Dr. McNitre, wouldn't she just be able to use the goggles to try and find where the gambler's laptop is at? That confuses me. So I don't know if that's a plot hole or something like that. But I don't know, it could just be me being nitpicky as well. I don't know, but I found that weird. But yeah, the episode does wrap up with Courtney going up to Sylvester, and she does essentially say to like find this way to split Sylvester and Starman apart, like pretty much find a balance between them. And Courtney does say that she does this with obviously Stargirl and Courtney Whitmore as well, and Courtney encourages the same thing to Starman. But this is when we have Sylvester confessing that he does not think that the Shade is a suspect anymore. So obviously this does deepen as well, and yeah, we have that bit continuing. But it is revealed that Cindy Berman has the gambler's laptop, and I don't know what's going on over here. Maybe she just took it to maybe like get some information, like view like the camera footage to see what happened. Or maybe she saw who did it, but she wants to be sure. I don't know. Maybe she grabbed it off someone. That is very, very interesting though. Maybe it could even be related to the gambler's murder. I don't know what's going on over here, but that was very, very interesting. And I think that's going to lead to something very, very suspicious within like the JSA, because the JSA will be questioning how she gets the laptop. And I think that's going to build more suspicions towards Cindy. But yeah, the episode ends with Paula and Crusher working out, and we have Crusher saying it's only a matter of time until they find out. So that is very interesting as well. Is that because Crusher paid a visit to the gambler earlier on in the episode before the murder happened, and that's what they're worried about, that the JSA will find out? I don't know. But it's very interesting. Obviously, they could have been the murderers, but I don't think they are. Obviously, they are a suspect. Or maybe it could be something totally different. Maybe they're the ones who saved Starman from the coffin or something like that. I don't know. But this is also very, very interesting. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below if you guys enjoyed this episode. And be sure to tell me who you guys think the killer is as well. I'm interested to see all of your thoughts towards all of this as well. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.